And what's up, y'all? Welcome in. It is GC Live Monday episode of the show. Wes Mitchell here, Chris Clark. Plenty to get to, but before we do, got to tell you about our good buddy, Clint Hammond of the Mortgage Network, clinthammond.com. 803-771-6933 is how you can call Clint. If you're in the market for a new home, or if you just want to know what your options are out there as far as maybe a refinance or how much house you can afford, give Clint a shout. He will work through all the numbers and help make what is sometimes a difficult process very, very simple. C. Hammond at mortgagenetwork.com. That's the letter C, Hammond at mortgagenetwork.com. NMLS number 71597. Again, I'm Wes. He's Chris. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Hopefully it was a better weekend for you than it was for the South Carolina baseball team. Swept at Auburn. Close games all the way through, but not the outcome that the Gamecocks wanted. Obviously, some good news on the men's basketball front. Women's basketball got to continue to celebrate a championship with a Darius Rucker plus Nelly concert over the weekend. And then, of course, even when nothing's going on for football, we still have plenty to talk about for football. So, jam-packed show. Also, momentarily, we hope we're going to be joined by our buddy Jamie Shaw from On 3 to talk a little bit of South Carolina men's basketball recruiting. So, plenty to get to. Chris, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? Unfortunately, you and I did not get the invite to the Darius concert. We are too old to be a student, so we were out on that. And then I guess we didn't have enough connections to pull some type of other VIP entry or something like that. So that was disappointing. But it looked fun. Looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, so Chris and I were texting yesterday about something social media wise, and Chris told me that he's a dinosaur. That that's how old he is now. So, Chris, do you know what FOMO is?
Oh yeah. I'm not that old. FOMO, I know. YOLO,
Okay,
FOMO, I know those.
because I was texting around. I was like, I think I want to go to this concert, and so
I think I want to go.
I was gonna like put some effort into it, and then I was just like, nah, there's other stuff I can be doing. It's fine. It's not for me, and they actually did. I saw like some media went, so like I feel like if you were like, oh yeah, I'm covering the concert for the news or something, we probably could have got in as media. But I was really not trying to go to this concert as media. I was trying to go enjoy this concert. And so I was like, no, it's fine. I don't need to go. It's fine. But then I'm not gonna lie. Once I saw like the videos and pictures and all that stuff coming out, Kendall was posting stuff on her Twitter, being at the concert. I had some serious FOMO, man. Like it looked like a great time, and how awesome. There was one, I'm not gonna name the name because it doesn't matter. There was a woman on Twitter complaining that that this concert was for students only, and I'm just like, and basically I'm like, the whole no good deed goes unpunished thing was all I could think about. I'm like, here's Darius throwing a free beeping concert, and somebody is complaining. And I realize right now I'm complaining about people complaining, so maybe I'm no better. But dude, are you like that bothered me way more than it should have. I was like, a free concert for the students. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a university, right? Like this is a school. So there's no way from the looks of it, there's no way to fit many more people in there. Like it was a packed house. So dude, how no matter what you do, someone will find fault.
There's no doubt. I mean, I can think of things we've tried to do, et cetera, and there's always one, and sometimes there's others. I thought it was an awesome. I found no negative in it. I got to say, I found no negative. I thought it was really cool. Did I have FOMO as well? Yes. Laying in bed last night, scrolling, probably in bed way too early because I am old West. Scrolling through my phone, seeing Kendall, seeing Michael Saws there. Very disappointing, but that's okay. Maybe, and Darius alluded to this, wants to do a Williams-Brice concert. Now, there's a lot of room in Williams-Brice. So, maybe another women's basketball natty would do it. Maybe if another sports team can step up and get them a title one day. Maybe Darius should do a freebie in Williams-Brice.
If you do Willie B, I think you go all out for this one. I think you charge like you free for the students, but charge for fans, right? Like I mean, if you're an adult, you can pay for your ticket. Like it's okay, pay for your ticket.
You don't make it outrageous.
Yeah,
because you know how expensive concerts are now, right? Like we're talking about the other day, like to go see like a big timer nowadays, or like an Elton John or the Eagles recently doing their 10th farewell tour. It's like $200 for nosebleeds.
Yeah,
let's charge $25.
Charge enough to pay the fees for like putting on the concert.
Put on the concert,
break even. But yeah, God, that would be fun, man.
That would be a lot.
Darius Rucker concert. That'd be pretty sweet. Again, going to be joined shortly by Jamie Shaw, and we'll get into it with him as far as he knows more about this stuff than Chris and I ever will. But Hayden Brown, the commitment to South Carolina over the weekend. Chris, I would say it seemed to be somewhat expected that South Carolina would get Brown. Obviously, they kind of had to withstand a couple of other visits as well. The most recent one, and I would say probably the biggest other one, being a trip to Georgia Tech that Hayden Brown took. But, I think by all indications, it seems like Hayden Brown is what I would call like a solid pickup, like a solid piece to next year's team. You look, man, I mean, I was talking about this with a buddy of mine the other day. It's not like you only need superstars at this point. Like, for one, it's hard to get superstars anyway, but there's a place within this team right now for superstars. Obviously, if you get one, there's a place for great players. There's a place for good players. There's a place available for role players too. Like the roster is going to have to be completely turned over at this point because of so many guys that's left. I'm looking forward to hearing from Jamie what he says, because I personally don't know yet exactly where Hayden Brown falls in that scope of different sort of outcomes or types of players that I'm talking about here, man. We do know that the kid can score the basketball. We do know he's a college veteran at this point, that he's played a lot of ball. We know that he does bring some level of size to the game, depending on where you're slotting him, where you're playing him necessarily. So, my and again, we're going to ask Jamie. My inclination is that Hayden Brown is a really solid pickup that, based on the current roster, probably will come in and start, I would think, unless they really are able to start to add some super high caliber guys between now and next season.
That's right. And, I was talking with Colin Taylor earlier, by the way. He has a really good piece inside the commitment on Hayden Brown that I will admit I lean on heavily when, learning about Hayden Brown and kind of his game and what he brings. I think Colin told me earlier 7 players basically is all we know that's going to be on the team next year. There will be more than 7 players, guys. We're pretty confident of that, right? But we don't know who they are yet. So it does largely depend on what happens in the transfer market in recruiting. Who do they land? All that, once all that's sorted out, then you can kind of start putting together in your mind, okay, we think this guy will be a starter. We think this guy will be a bench guy, etc. But I think it's probably safe to say, Wes, start certainly would be fair, almost no matter what happens, right? But definitely like a key experienced reserve guy, you would think at a bare minimum for them. And I saw Colin noted, played actually some Senator. I mixed the two names. Center at the Citadel, probably more of like a 3-man, 4-man for South Carolina. But someone, like you said, that has a ton of experience. And obviously Lamont Paris and his staff, Tanner Bronson, who headed up the recruitment, they have a lot of familiarity with him because of scouting the kid and because of playing against him. I think Hayden Brown scored 17 points in the last matchup between Chattanooga and the Citadel. So interesting pickup for them, and also a good culture, like locker room guy, which I think they'll need coming up this season.
Yeah, they definitely will, man. And again, this is it's a rebuild. So you're kind of, in my opinion, at this point, you're going to look to transfer. I think they've looked at a JUCO guy or two, maybe two. You're looking at freshmen. You're kind of pulling from. You're going to have to pull from about every single category that you possibly can, and that's just sort of where it is right now. SC Scout guy says, serious question: could we maybe get someone off the football team to play basketball this year? If that is an actual serious question, I'm going to say no. If that was a fun question, then absolutely. Like, there are several guys based on our Garnet Trust interviews. I think there are several guys in an alternate universe. If this was like more accepted to just jump to another sport, I think they'd be all over it.
Oh yeah.
I think Josh Van, who, by the way, we'll have our latest Garnet Trust exclusive with him. I think we're going to run that tomorrow morning. It's pretty much ready, but I don't want to get lost today. We're going to run it tomorrow morning. Josh can hoop from what he says. So, but there are several guys on this team that I think are solid basketball players, but none. Yeah, Benjamin saying, Jordan Birch, yes, he was a baller playing against guys who could not basically hang with him at all athletically to an extent. 99% of the times he was on the court. But yeah, there's some good players. Chris, I don't think they're, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there's a Bruce Ellington level dual sport basketball player that can just hop in and play,
You totally stole my analogy I was going to make. There is definitely no Bruce Ellington on this roster. And we were deprived, Wes, another fun thing, of the opportunity to see Trey Hannibal, when he was at South Carolina, also go play football. We always wanted that. No indication it ever would have happened. It was just kind of a fun thing where you watch the guy play and you're like, this guy could play football and probably be really good. Never got to see it. So, yeah, there's some guys. I think Josh Van does come up a lot. Certainly he would vote for himself, but I think some of the other players have also voted for him. Birch comes up. Chad Terrell comes up a lot, I think, in those teams. Apparently Chad Terrell can hoop. But, yeah, they need to find some basketball players and let the football guys focus on football, I would say.
Yeah, some real basketball players. Yeah, Chris, I don't know if I'm putting myself in the category of wanting to see Hannibal play DB. I think that's just a you thing because you want everybody to play DB.
Right.
So, but he would have been solid. I would have had him maybe as a slot receiver, but I'm sure you would have thrown him in the defensive backfield.
DB or even a big running back.
Yeah.
See, like a big back, because he would barrel into people, like I'd turn him loose.
Yeah, he's a thick dude. All right, let's go out now. I believe we got him on the line. It is Jamie Shaw. He is joining us. It looks like from in a house this time and not from middle of nowhere, North Carolina. How we doing, Jamie?
Good. I just got back from Moe's. I got my steak bowl ready to go and ready to talk some basketball.
Okay, is that a Moe's NIL deal that you're throwing at us a little bit, or just you just like some Moe's?
Yes, I just like some Moe's.
Okay, I can get down with Moe's. A little more of a Chipotle fan, but that's another podcast. We'll leave that out, man.
We knocked out
but we all already knew you had bad taste. So.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Let's make a poll here. Everybody in the chat. It's a one-word poll: Chipotle or Moe's, and we'll see who wins by the end of the show. But Jamie, obviously, South Carolina, the biggest news over the weekend, as far as commitments go for them, getting Hayden Brown, the first scholarship commitment for Lamont Paris. So, Jamie, what can you tell us about this pickup and how he fits in at South Carolina, you think?
Yeah, no, he's a great kid. He's an unbelievable. He's going to be a leader. He's going to be a leader in the locker room guy. He plays hard, maximizes what he has, what he does. He's older, so he's been around. The guys at UT Chattanooga had a very familiar feeling with him as they played against him for 4 years. You know, he's a guy who's going to come out and grind. He's gritty. He's going to grind, and he's going to maximize what he has.
Jamie, tell us when you kind of look at the state of this roster from a numbers standpoint, but also needs. You know, tell us what you see on this roster as far as what the staff needs to be going after in recruiting. Obviously, we'll get to some of the specific names. We know some of the positions, some of the names that they're out there recruiting, but what are the biggest priorities for this team? Obviously, mostly in the transfer portal at this point.
Talent. Talent's the biggest need for this roster right now. You know, they lost, you know, all the starters from last year's team, you know, finished tied for 5th in the SEC. All those guys are going to, you know, good programs. You know, and they're left with guys who don't have much experience, much tenure, much playing time on the court. The biggest need is talent throughout the entire roster, all over the court.
So obviously the big, I would say, non-commitment wise news over the weekend, Julian Phillips hitting campus for South Carolina. I think just getting him in, you know, was noteworthy, obviously. But first of all, have you gotten any feedback on how that went? And have you heard anything on, is South Carolina a potential factor here, or was it more of like, I'm just willing to listen to my hometown school, basically?
So I guess I'll answer the second question first. No, South Carolina is not a factor here. And second, I guess, you know, he was in town. He obviously moved away to Missouri to go to school this past season. Not home very much. He was here. This was actually the first time Julian Phillips has been on a visit to South Carolina, the old staff or anything. He'd never been on campus for a visit or anything. So, you know, he came for a couple hours, and I think like 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. or something like that. Came for a couple hours, got to see everything, and went on about his way.
Yeah, so Jamie, dropping the news that South Carolina not expected to be a giant factor or much of a factor with Julian Phillips, the LSU transfer. Tell us about some of the guys they are in the mix for. You know, Michi from Ohio State, some of the other guys that are on the board that you are still tracking in terms of South Carolina.
Yeah, so right now they're only really tracking transfers. No real high school kids are in the mix. Brevin Galloway, Michi Johnson. I don't know how to pronounce his name, Dibba. I don't know if it's Dibba, from Coastal Carolina, or I guess 3 guys at the forefront. Coastal, the Dibba is on a visit, I think now, or either it starts today. Michi is supposed to announce today, and I think Brevin Galloway is coming up pretty soon too.
Do you have a feel, especially the 2 announcements that are coming up soon? You know, Galloway, South Carolina, and Clemson, and then, like you said, Michi, 4 o'clock today. Do you have a feel if South Carolina will have a good shot to land those guys, or which way they're headed right now?
Yeah, so Michi, I guess, is choosing between Pittsburgh, DePaul, South Carolina. I don't know if there's another one in the mix there. South Carolina feels pretty confident about where they stand with Michi. From the Pittsburgh side of things too, they're thinking a little bit towards South Carolina as well. On that one, the Galloway one, I think is a toss up. Obviously, his brother played tight end to Clemson, Braden. Not sure how things went there, but you know, both in-state schools, they want him. Clemson both legitimately wants them too. I talked to him yesterday about it, and they really don't have a feel for it. South Carolina has a feel for it. They feel that they're in good position. Clemson didn't really have a feel one way or the other. How they felt about it, I think with the Dibba, I think South Carolina's in a decent position with him too. Now I don't know what that does with the numbers. I don't know where they are at with when it comes to scholarships and all that. But at least I think 2 of those could come to South Carolina.
What would, you know, let's say 2, 3 of them come to South Carolina, you know, give us a quick breakdown of, you know, maybe what to expect from, you know, 2 or 3 of those guys from an on-court perspective, and kind of what they would do with the roster.
So we'll start with the Coastal. I'm just gonna call him Dibba. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But DIBBA to me, in my mind, without having heard his name said to me before, is Dibba. So I'm gonna go with that. He's a unique player, an unbelievable passer. At 6'6", you can run a lot of stuff around him. He's got the positional size to be able to play multiple positions. You can play a smaller guy beside him that's a score first type of guard. He can initiate some offense. You can also run some actions through him, kind of at the high post, at the wing. He's a good defender, and he's probably a little bit too unselfish too. He I think 8 points a game, 9 points a game at Coastal. He could probably take a couple more shots and actually be a little bit more aggressive hunting his own shots. He's a talented player, and a unique skill set with his size and ability. Galloway, he brings a lot of same things to the table as Hayden Brown. Leadership's what you're getting with him. You're getting leadership, and you're getting a locker room presence. Somebody's been there before. That goes out and knows how to do the work and the work that needs to be put in. He's just coming off of injury, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And then Michi obviously had a huge injury. A big thing with his game prior to the injury and that he had his senior year in high school was explosion in athleticism. He's played 2 years at Ohio State, hasn't necessarily gained back that explosion, that burst yet. And the numbers kind of are showing that he's had playing at Ohio State, but he's a name. Regardless of how he performs or whatever on the court, people know Michi Johnson. People are going to see the Michi Johnson name, South Carolina, and there could be a little bit of a splash there. A little bit of a national headline with that one coming in.
So it's kind of a perception get in some ways, just a guy that it looks good to get a name like that. Jamie, any of the young guys coming up in the state that maybe you want to talk about? Just either A, you just want to show them some love, or B, as far as potential South Carolina targets that you think they might be able to maybe get a little bit of traction. Obviously, recruiting starts so early, man. What are some names we need to know moving forward?
Yeah, so I guess in 22, everybody knows the names. 23 will start Cohen Carr, Legacy Early College. He's a top 100 player. We have it on 3. They're in Greenville. You also have Jordan Butler, the brother of John Butler, who's at Florida State. He's a 6'10". Both his parents went to South Carolina. He's also a top 30 player in the country by on 3, 6'10", skilled player. He plays for LaMelo Ball's AAU team. Cohen Carr plays for the Georgia Stars on the Nike circuit. Brandon Gardner has South Carolina ties. I don't believe he will be going to South Carolina. He's also going to school in Raleigh, North Carolina right now. But he started off a great collegiate for his first 2 seasons. That's a name that I'm sure some people are familiar with. Looking down in 2024, Elijah Crawford at Augusta Christian. Obviously, Augusta's in Georgia, but the Augusta Christian plays in the South Carolina Independent League. He's a 6'2", strong body point guard. A really good player. Will probably trend at a national level, at least be in our top 150 when we expand it out. The rankings-wise, Cam Scott, he's the only 2024 in South Carolina that's ranked right now. 6'5" shooting guard out of Lexington High School. And then moving down to 2025, Trayvon Maddox, a 6'6" wing out of White Knoll High School, is a player to track in the 2025 class at a national level.
Jamie, good stuff as always, man. We appreciate you taking the time. You want to throw your Twitter handle and all that stuff out there real quick, man?
Yeah, absolutely. At Jamie Shaw, JAMIE Shaw 5 is my Twitter, and my Instagram, Jamie_Shaw5.
Awesome, man. Hey, we appreciate it. Appreciate all the insight on GamecockCentral.com, the message boards as well, and for joining us on GC Live, man. I know you're busy. We'll let you get back to it. All right.
Appreciate it.
All right. Hey, hold up.
Vote Mose.
Hey, hold on. I was gonna say, hold on. We gotta solve this before we let you go. I am actually amazed. By quick count, Mose is the winner. So I guess Chris, are you a little bit surprised? I'm surprised. I thought more people were into Chipotle than Mose. Truly. Like, not just because I was trying to pick on Jamie and make an argument. Like, I thought Chipotle would have like a little bit of an advantage, but no, Mose is the winner. I'm not really that surprised. Mose is hopping, man, when you go in there. A lot of people love Mose. I was there today.
I don't miss Wes.
There you go. All right, Jamie, have a good one, man. Appreciate you.
All
Thanks,
right,
Jamie.
later. Thank you.
Yep. Brian says Moses trash. And Bill says, I mean, for every Moses trash, there's a Moses great response. So
My man, SC Scout guy has I love you, man. This is a very bothersome take. He says that both are pretty bad. He voted for Moses and says both are pretty bad. I feel like SC Scout guy must be, this is just a guess. Like, you know how there's some people that are like purists, like a Tex-Mex, like purist. That might be SC Scout guy. He might like live in Texas or something.
yeah, I mean, if you're not going to Moe's or Chipotle for the authentic Mexican
Right.
food experience, y'all.
Right.
But I mean, is it pretty good? Like I
Yeah.
mean, dude, here's the thing. Moe's is good, but I feel like Chipotle is a meal that I can go get a very it's going to taste very good, but also I can stay somewhat in the realm of not being awful for me. If I go to Moe's, I'm rolling this thing in queso, man. Like it's Moe's, what they have going is their queso. But like when I actually got into like trying to be more fit a long time ago and was looking for meals that were like good after workout meals, Chipotle is like the top. I feel like
it is the best.
It's number one. So, but I'm a little bit shocked. I thought Chipotle held the championship as far as those two things. I guess at least among the GC Live fam, I am wrong. Bill says Moe's guac is better.
Oh, no.
I don't know, Bill. I don't know, man.
Moe's said the biggest distinction, like Moe's. You remember when Chipotle came out with their first iteration of their queso?
Yeah, it was garbage, but
it was the worst ever.
Yeah, it was bad.
Much better now, but still, Moe's is the goat on the queso, for sure.
All right, so sorry, we didn't really plan to get all into that, y'all. But if you start talking food discussion with me and Chris, we're like a 6-year-old. Like our brains are like, yeah, let's talk about that, not sports. But all right, takeaways from Jamie seems to be kind of like what we were already saying on Hayden Brown, but I think as far as the transfers, sounds like there is reason to possibly be somewhat confident on Michi picking the Gamecocks. Maybe it sounded like, Chris.
Yeah, it looks like that there is an expectation of landing players, right? Michi, he seemed more confident about, but certainly the others too. The other two that he mentioned, there's at least some confidence that South Carolina is firmly in the game there. So a lot of fans have been concerned about, the timeline and the fact that they're watching some schools land players from the transfer portal. South Carolina has not. It looks like there's, a little bit of activity, brewing there. And Michi would certainly be that would be a guy. I think Jamie outlined that well, like the splash, right? You're getting a guy who's, a Big Ten transfer who has a name, and gives you a little bit of splash and a little bit of juice in that regard. Certainly something that fans would be excited about. Ultimately, you just need, like Jamie said, and go back to something else he said, you need talent. And for this team, this coaching staff and their situation, you're going to have to kind of scratch and claw for that. So maybe you're taking some chances on guys. You're taking some guys like the guy from Coastal. If you can get Brevin Galloway, you're not going out and signing 4 5-star transfers. You're not going out and signing 4 Julian Phillips-esque players, but you're trying to be resourceful and trying to build this team back because that's what it's going to be, given the circumstances.
And apparently not signing any Julian Phillips, it sounds like, at least from what Jamie's hearing. Julian reportedly at Auburn, or going to be at Auburn, supposed to be at Auburn today, Monday. There seems to be a vibe from the Auburn websites that could be the pick, which Gamecock fans, I know
that'll hurt.
That one's got to sting just a little bit to see Pearl come in here and snag him. That's tough. But all right, so let's talk a little football. Again, we appreciate Jamie hopping on And actually, before we talk some football, I want to talk to you about our friends at Liberty Tax. Yes, the 2022 tax deadline has passed, but the tax team at Liberty Tax can still help cure your taxiety. You can file an extension. Locations are open Mondays through Fridays. And if you own a small business and need tax advice, they can help you with bookkeeping, payroll services for LLCs, S Corps, C Corps. If you owe money to the IRS, you can meet with one of their local professionals to represent you in settling your debt in person as opposed to calling somebody over the phone. You also have a new location at 551 St. Andrews Road by the Harbor Freight. So, of course, as we've told you since tax time began, we appreciate our friends at Liberty Tax supporting us here on GC Live. And if any of the things I just named sound like something that affects you, give them a call, 803-462-5576. Again, 803-462-5576. Chris, I was looking, I'm not going to lie, I was looking for something to talk about today, football-wise. And lo and behold, our boy Chucktown Cock, Gamecock Central legend, or the famous or infamous, depending on which side of the GC message boards you're on, because Chucktown he knows how to get people going, get people talking, right? He posted a depth chart on Gamecock Central on the Insiders Forum. And what are you laughing at?
The way you said that cracked me up, like your intro, and then you're like, he posted a depth chart. He did
it. He did, Chris. It's there. You can go look at it.
Oh, yeah.
I feel, hey, so never mind. I'm not going there. But,
no. You gotta say it.
All right. So no. So all right. I've noticed though, this is a trend right now. All the websites, like you go on the state right now, depth chart projection. Go on the other site that we don't talk about, depth chart projection. I'm sure at some point we're going to post it, and I might do one tomorrow. I'm not going to lie. Depth chart projection.
Right.
It's the thing you do after spring practice.
Yeah.
And you need some content. You need some clicking. So I've been looking around the different depth charts, and my question or my topic is, my thesis here, my hypothesis here is basically on a couple of guys that I think are being a little bit misrepresented where they would be on the depth charts. So I think the guy right now that is getting the least credit for having the best spring is MJ Webb.
Yep.
And I think MJ Webb also doesn't get much credit for what he did last year.
Yep. Co-sign on both those items.
And MJ went from being the guy that had expectations that were frankly a little too high based on the ranking, the rating, 4-star guy, high expectations, to afterthought, frankly, to underrated now. I think like he has run the entire gamut of the way people see him in this program, or the people outside of the program see him, to be more accurate. So I think that's the guy, man, that's going to be a much bigger part of what they do than what I believe the perception is right now.
The more that you talk about this and flesh it out, like I got my wheels are turning. I don't get it. Why? Because like even some guys that were like 4 stars in that same like 2017 class that he was in, or 2018, people still talk about them more. You know, like Chad Terrell, for instance. Now he did have a good spring. He caught the first touchdown of the spring game, playing tight end. More stuff's been written about him. Maybe it's because defensive tackle is like more of an unglamorous position unless you're just dominant or you're like this highly ranked guy. But yeah, he was a 4-star out of Georgia. He was in the first, Will Muschamp's first class was 16, but he was in that first kind of full class in 2017, 4-star guy out of Georgia. And I guess people just maybe kind of wrote him off. But yeah, I mean, last year this is a guy that there were several guys who were 4-star guys, highly ranked guys playing on the defensive line, and MJ Webb kind of emerged to where he played a good bit. I mean, I remember that was a surprise to me early in the year, and it kind of just continued throughout the year. I kept waiting for, well, somebody else going to step up, and MJ Webb kind of kept those backup snaps fairly steady throughout the year. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing for a guy with that level of experience to continue, along that path, to be able to give them at the minimum depth. If not, I mean, this wouldn't be a surprise if this guy, started games for South Carolina this year.
Well, and yeah, I think, man, you look. I think we probably talked about this on the live stream during the spring game, and he was certainly among the first four, right? Like he was among there were obviously two defensive tackle starters on the Garnet team and two defensive tackle starters on the Black team, and he was among the four. So you can't really create a depth chart off of that, but I think one thing he brings to the table too, man, and Scout Guy says 6'3", 310 pounds. Think about what they struggled to do last year. That stopped the run. And, I think any way they can add some size in there is, is going to be helpful, obviously, with that. And the thing is, I think because of TJ Sanders' emergence, and again, we talked about this, you can be the surprise player. You can be making progress year over year, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're ready to slide into a starting spot or even to the high level, the high parts of the rotation, So I think TJ should be commended for all the progress he's made. And we've said really from very early on that this guy was going to be a big part of the program in the future. But I think MJ is the guy right now that's maybe weirdly, strangely been overshadowed a bit by the TJ talk. And then I think the other side is, the Sandage hope from the fan base that Rick Sandage was going to be able to slide in, but this recovery from injury and then missing more time in the spring, it's kind of been one thing after another for Rick. It's not really his fault at all because it's been more injury based. So, I think you're kind of sitting there like, you don't right now. I'm looking at other guys at that spot until proven otherwise. I think you're looking at MJ, you're looking at Tonka, you're looking at Boogie. After that, you're looking at TJ, Nick Barrett, and those guys who have worked their way into the mix. The other thing that sort of catches my attention too is defensive end, the edge spot. And we know the two Jordans are your starters, but I went back and looked. Remember me questioning this out loud during the stream? The next guys in the mix were, you had Gilbert Edmond out there. You had Tyreek Johnson out there. It seems as if they have had really solid springs.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all kind of circled Terrell Dawkins too, because we know that he's impressed. I think there's still more work to do there, but from a physical standpoint, just his willingness to get in there, he's a guy that I think has a chance to be a good player. But yeah, Edmond flashed to me in the spring game. I think there's still some work to do there in the run game, just from what I saw. But he's gotten bigger. I think his freshman year at 2020 at South Carolina, I think he was 230. He's 250, 255 now. So he looks more filled out. He has good bend off the edge. So he can possibly give you something as a pass rusher. Tyreek Johnson is a kid that also has had, pretty substantial injury history, Wes. But I think this is a really important spring for him. And I think he responded and did a nice job. So, look, the not only we've talked about this a ton, so broken record alert, but, losing Enigbare and Sterling off last year's team was pretty substantial. But then you've got to have the two Jordans take a step up, and then you got to develop some depth behind them. So given South Carolina's roster situation, and they also, by the way, aside from getting Dawkins in the portal, they did strike out on a couple edge targets in recruiting. That means that they've got to have some current roster members step up this year, not next year, not 2 years, right now. That's going to be critical for them. So I thought there were some positive signs this spring for those guys. They need to continue building on that.
Yeah, and critical to go out, I think, and land a couple of edge guys, man. I mean, it is what it is. That's the facts. Obviously, Montague Rames, probably the guy, this is the one like you circle, right? Like you sort of say that's the in-state guy. That's the person that makes the most sense. But I think it goes well beyond that, Chris. I think you look at it and say you need 2-3 guys that fit that mold that can go get after the quarterback.
Absolutely. It's a giant priority. And of course, we're thinking back to the 2022 or the 2021 recruiting class, and it is 22, and the kid from Maryland who ends up the DMV area who ends up flipping to Maryland, Jay Sean Barham. You got James Pierce out of Charlotte. South Carolina thought they would get a chance to try to take that one from all the way to February. They didn't. He ended up signing early, and those were two very, very solid prospects. One of them was committed to you very, very briefly. Then you try to go out to get Pierce. That doesn't work. So those are fairly substantial blows. Maybe not for this year. Could those guys have helped? Maybe. But what it does mean is that really, really ramps up the need to, like you said, Wes, go out in the 23 class and find some guys that can not only are talented, but can help you early, given what you got on the roster and what you're going to lose off the roster.
No doubt, man. All right, let's take a quick question before we get out of here from Chris on Facebook. I recognize that name. I think Chris is a pretty loyal listener, viewer. He says, how long should it take for Stog to get up to date missing the spring practice? Man, Chris, to me, that's not really a huge concern. I think he's an NFL talent. He's an older guy, a veteran guy. You obviously would have been better if he could have been here, of course. But for one, the tight end route tree itself isn't some hyper complex thing that, it's going to be mostly the same routes for a tight end. So that part's not really a factor, I think. Will there be some blocking stuff that maybe, it does take some time? Of course that's a possibility. But I think you look, man, and clearly if he's the player I think he is, by the time he gets here in June and then has a couple of months to sort of dive into everything, he's still 100% a projected starter. He's going to be a big part of this team.
100%. And so I'll just kind of roll with an anecdote I was given, and this was during the COVID pandemic when Stog was at Oklahoma. And we talked about this a lot on the show, Wes, while COVID was going on, about players going back home, that they're not allowed in the facility. They're not allowed on campus. And so a lot of guys went home, and you're eating, and maybe you're sitting around some. There's not a lot of guys doing a lot. Stog, apparently, when they were able to go back to Oklahoma, he was in better shape than when, which was atypical for that time. A lot of guys came back in after the pandemic, and it was rude awakening from a workout, conditioning, strength standpoint, from a nutrition standpoint. So he's a lot like Spencer Rattler in that it's business and they're going to have fun, right? But it's business. He's going to take a very professional approach. The first time we talked to Stogner, Wes, we knew that you come away with that very professional feel, that professional approach. He kind of seems like you're sitting there interviewing a guy who's playing on an NFL roster. He's extremely sharp. He works extremely hard. So I'm with you. Not that big of a concern to me. And
final thing here before we get out of here, we'll answer Jamie's question since he was nice enough to join us. I'm sure he's stuffing his face with his subpar Moes right now. Jamie says, I need some positive info on the state of the offensive line. Chris, can you provide that for him?
Wow, just punt that one. Well, here's the thing about the offensive line. So people need to kind of measure this in terms of their expectations. South Carolina's offensive line, in my opinion, is not going to go from, what we saw last season, where it was last year, to, okay, now it's one of the top 3 best in the conference. I don't think we're going to see that from a talent standpoint, number one, or just even what's around it. But there are some reasons to be encouraged that it could be better. And I think that comes down to several factors. Number one, you get everybody back. You've got some guys who are young. You got Dylan Wanham back. You've got some guys that are still relatively young, Jalen Nichols, Trey Jones, who's been working second team, Vershawn Lee, still a relatively young player, Ja'Kai Moore, mixed with some veteran presences like Douglas and Gwynn. So you get everybody back. The communication issues that we saw a ton last season, those played into the line play and the offense as a whole. Those seemed much better in the spring going into year 2 of the scheme. And then also the weapons around. So the fact that you have Spencer Rattler, that's going to help with your operation time. When Spencer Rattler's under center, they're going to take less sacks than they did last season, in my opinion. I think that's just a reality. And they do have more offensive playmakers. Running back still question mark, right, because of the guys they lost, but they have talent there more so than last year on the whole, to where that helps your offensive line play. Whatever happens around the O-line helps the O-line itself look better too. So it's kind of a wait and see. I know everybody's improvement mode. I'm personally improvement mode too, but there are some reasons to feel more optimistic than what we were seeing in the middle of last year.
No doubt, man. All right, y'all, we're going to get off here. Obviously, those watching live, and by the time you listen to this, maybe it's already revealed, but Shane Beamer did just tweet out a welcome home. So Gamecocks have added another commitment. We're going to get to working on some content on that. And certainly the next show that we have, if the commitment is out, we will talk about it and talk about what it means. And I'd imagine this one isn't a long wait, but we shall see. So for Chris, I'm Wes. Appreciate all of you joining. Appreciate Clint Hammond. Appreciate our friends at Liberty Tax. And y'all have a good one. We'll see you soon.